يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد، فإن خير الحديث كتاب الله عز وجل، وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وشر الأمور محدثاتها، وكل محدثة بدعة، وكل بدعة ضلالة، وكل ضلالة في النار. Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As you know, in talking about sincerity, we have been talking about the value of intention and having the right intention. And we today, inshallah, wanted to just say a few final words about intention and then move on into the issue of sincerity, make the transition to sincerity. As we said, brothers and sisters, that your intention can be a good intention or it could be a bad intention. It could be a noble intention, could be an evil intention. For us as believers, this process of dedicating your intention to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, having the intention to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this process is what we call sincerity. In other words, purifying this intention in whatever you do to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is what we know as sincerity. And when it comes to sincerity, we should understand that even if you have a good intention and you do something that is haram, it doesn't make that haram right. It doesn't change that haram into something halal. So your intention may be good, but what you're doing is wrong, is not sanctioned by the Quran or the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So therefore, it doesn't make that action or that particular behavior or conduct correct. And what I mean to say is, brothers and sisters, a lot of times we have people who say that, look, I'm going to make this money, whichever way I make my money, I'm going to make this money, and I'm going to make it in a way that is not okay with Islam, but I'm going to make it whichever way that I make it. Don't worry about it. I'm going to make this money, but then I'll donate it to the masjid. Okay? So you find somebody saying that, look, I'm going to buy this lottery ticket, and I promise, as a matter of fact, I'm going to make dua for this at Hajj on Arafah, that if oh Allah, make me win this lottery ticket, and whatever money I get, I'm going to donate it to the masjid. I'm going to donate most of it to the masjid. Okay? And as a matter of fact, Ya Allah, I'm going to build a masjid with this money, or I'm going to build an Islamic school with it, and we have these intentions. So the intention might be good, that you want to do something good with that money, but the means that you used was not something that was allowed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, mainly to gamble in a lottery format. Or you might make that money through trickery, like you might sell something and you might not tell your somebody that you're really making a lot more money than you're supposed to be making the money. Like you might sell a house for $1 million, but it's only worth $500,000, and then you come along and you say that, well, it's not such a big deal. Well, brother, you're going to get sued. Oh, well, okay. Well, so what if I get sued? Maybe I'll lose another 100, 200,000, 300,000. I still come on top by $200,000. So you made some money in a haram way, in a way that is displeasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And even if you deal with interest, for example, that you know that interest is haram, but you go ahead and you work in a bank and you say that, look, all the money that I'm going to get, I'm going to donate to the masjid or this or that. Or you own a liquor store. You own a liquor store or you own a 7-Eleven, where you're selling liquor, or you own a gas station where you're selling liquor. Whatever the issue may be, or you have a restaurant where you know that the only way you're going to make money is through liquor, as you think. So you do those things and you make money, and you say, look, I'm still donating to the masjid. I gave the masjid 100,000. Look at all your people. They're just hand to mouth type people. They only can give $5, $10, $15, and look, I'm giving 100,000 to the masjid. So you should make dua that my liquor store survives. And how you have people talking in this fashion. So here the point is that even though your intention may be good to help with an Islamic cause, but the means that you're using is not something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has permitted. So just because your intention is good, that does not justify your use of those means that you're using. So Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, in this connection, he said that إِنَّ اللَّهَ طَيِّبٌ لَا يَقْبَلُ إِلَّا طَيِّبًا, that Allah is good and does not accept anything except that it is good. So if you want to do something for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you've got to make sure that not only your intention is good, but the means that you employ are also good, and the result will also be good. You can't just make your own decision as far as these issues are concerned. And as a matter of fact, when it comes to money that you make in a haram way, money that you make in a way that is not pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then you come along and you say, look, I'm going to give sadaqah with it. I'm going to give charity by using this money. And I'm going to give in the way of Allah. Actually, that money does not belong to you to begin with. So how are you going to give sadaqah on it? How are you going to give charity on it? How are you going to give a donation on top? It's like, imagine if somebody was to steal some money, or somebody was to find money on the street, just lying there, and they were to take that money, and say, okay, I'm going to go donate this money to the masjid. Well, the money doesn't belong to you. In order for you to give sadaqah, the money has to belong to you to give to someone. So when you make money through interest or through trickery or through various ways, that money, or through a lottery, that money does not belong to you to begin with. So how are you going to give it in sadaqah after all? So, and this is why, as Muslims, for us, the principle of the ends justify the means does not apply. It's non-existent for us as Muslims. Because the ends do not justify the means. As Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, that إِنَّ اللَّهَ طَيِّبٌ لَا يَقْبَلُ إِلَّا طَيِّبًا. Allah is good and is fine and does not accept anything unless it is good. So, and this is why Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, another companion of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَمْحُ السَّيِّئَ بِالسَّيِّئِ لَكِنْ يَمْحُ السَّيِّئِ بِالْحَسَنِ. That Allah surely does not erase something bad with something bad. He only erases something bad with something good. So this is the first point. The second point is that when we come to our intention, it is important to understand that anything that we do in Islam, anything that you do in this world or you do something for the hereafter, whatever you do, it is unacceptable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unless it satisfies two preconditions. Unless it has two preconditions. The first one, that it is sincerely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second one is that it has to follow the way of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Okay? So, if you want anything to be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the first thing is that it has to be totally dedicated to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In other words, no personal agendas, no personal benefits out of it. It has to be totally dedicated to Allah. You cannot worship Allah and then say that you're going to, then at the same time have a priority for something else, for somebody else. It has to be totally for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So therefore, when you do something, obviously the intention is for Allah. The second thing is that it has to follow the way of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. If it does not follow his way, you might have a good intention, but it doesn't follow his way, then you're not going to get credited for that. This is not something that is worth anything with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So again, some of these things that, as I mentioned them as examples, they might be sensitive. But understand, brothers and sisters, take a look at the proof rather than at me. Take a look at what Allah and His Prophet say, rather than paying attention to the way it's being said or what is being what is being said, and take a look within yourselves, be introspective in relation to the information that is being given. So, when we have those two preconditions, if you take an example such as, for example, take the issue of celebrating birthdays. Now, celebrating birthdays, you might have a very good intention. You might say, look, we're just, what's the harm in it? We're just doing it, so my intention is good. The child will feel valuable and precious, and it will raise the self-esteem of the child. And besides, everybody in the class is also doing it. They're going to school, and it's going to look really weird because they're going to give him birthday cakes in class. They're going to give him gifts, and it's, my child, if I don't let him celebrate the birthday, they're going to look really strange in class. Well, the issue again that comes up is that, okay, your intention might be good, that you want to do it to do something good for the child. But again, the whole issue comes up: is it following the way of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Is it following the way of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Did he ever celebrate the birthdays of his children? Did he ever do that? Did any of the Sahaba ever do that? Did he celebrate his own birthday? And so on. Even when it comes to the celebration of his own birthday, did Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam actually celebrate his own birthday? And so should we celebrate his birthday? If he himself did not celebrate, did any of and so on. The whole 9 yards here. But the issue again is, if you want something to be accepted by Allah, it has to first be for Allah, dedicated to Allah, and second, it has to follow the way of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that's those are there are a lot of proofs of this from the Quran, and of course a lot of proofs for this from the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When you come to the proof from the Quran, the major proof that comes from the Quran is of course the Surah Al-Kahf. This is the surah that we're supposed to read every Friday. And if you take a look at the Surah 18, verse 110. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو لِقَاءَ رَبِّهِ فَلْيَعْمَلْ عَمَلًا صَالِحًا وَلَا يُشْرِكْ بِعِبَادَةِ رَبِّهِ أَحَدًا. Which means that whoever hopes to meet their Lord, then they should فَلْيَعْمَلْ عَمَلًا صَالِحًا, then they should do something that is good. They should do the righteous deeds, but they should not associate anybody in that righteousness and anybody in that worship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In other words, it should be sincerely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And again, there are many other proofs. The reason I'm citing these proofs is, as you know, in Islam, our attitude as Muslims is that whatever we say, there has to be some proof from the Quran or the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's not just our opinion in this. This is how our Islam is very unique, in the sense that Islam in general is very unique in the sense that whatever is said, there's proof behind it from the Quran or the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, the next thing is that in general, to be sincere and to have the right intention is not something easy. It is something difficult. This is a work in motion. This is a lifetime process. It's not something that you go to school and you say, "Well, I have my intention. I have my sincerity now." No, nobody questioned my sincerity. No, it doesn't work like that. This is something that you work on more than you work on your voicemail or your emails or your or your bank account. You work on this more than that. This is something that you work on constantly to check your intention. And as a matter of fact, when you in every salah, when you say Allahu Akbar, you just don't say it once. You say it many times. Throughout the salah. And what are you saying? Allah is the greatest. So what you're doing in a way is you're checking your intention. You're saying to yourself, Allah is the greatest, not me. I'm not my own boss. I'm not the greatest. I certainly don't know what's best for me. Allah knows what's best for me. So you're always checking your intention constantly, and this is why Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam encouraged us that whatever we do, we should always try to start it by saying Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, in the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Why? Because the idea is to check your intention. Is this whatever you're about to do? Is this really for Allah subhanahu wa taala or not? So being sincere and having the right intention is not something easy, and this is why we find that even though our scholars, for example, that they would spend 5, 10, 15, 20 years just to straighten out their intention. Just to straighten out their intention. Okay? Now, you would say, but Brother Safi, I mean, we're busy these days. Come on. I mean, 20 years, straightening out your intention. You know, what, I mean, we have bills these days. Well, they did also. So it's not as if they were sitting in the masjid and saying, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, make the gold drop from the sky, or make money come, from trees. I mean, they weren't doing stuff. They were working just as hard. They were just as diligent. As a matter of fact, by the way, we have it a lot easier than they did. Because remember, they didn't have cars to take them to work. They weren't telecommuting. They weren't. They didn't have these automatic debits. That just automatic deposits that money was just rolling into their accounts and things of that nature. They didn't have these things. They had to walk to work. They weren't driving. They had to walk to work, and so they had to spend a couple of hours just getting to work and just doing the things they had to do. And then they would come home and they would be extremely tired. And their lives were a lot busier than perhaps ours that you can imagine for ourselves. So, but despite all of that, they would spend the time there was one of our modern day scholars. He spent like 5 years writing his PhD thesis on what? On intention. On intention. This was his entire PhD thesis was on this issue of having the right intention. Now you can imagine that normally you get a PhD, it takes you 3 to 5 years, depending on what you know and the speed that you work with and so on. So anyway, getting your straightening out your intention is not something that you just snap your fingers and it's there. No, it's not like that. It's something that you have to work on your entire life. The next thing is, brothers and sisters, it is very, very important for us to, especially all of us who are working for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, working for Islam. And in a word, or in essence, basically all of us fit that category. Because no matter what profession you have, as long as you are here in America, basically in one way or another, in some form or another, you are the ambassadors of Islam. You are the ambassadors of Islam. So people will recognize you. People will see that, look, you pray. People will see you wear the hijab. People will see that you don't smoke. People will see that you don't eat pork. People will see that you don't drink. People will see that you don't use foul language. People will see that you don't backbite. People will see that you always tell the truth. People will see that you're always on time when it comes to work. I mean, these are Muslim ethics that people will notice, and people will see that you're always calm. You hardly ever get angry. I mean, all these things that people will notice, and they see that you worship the one God. And as a matter of fact, inshallah, they'll begin to see that their media is wrong about the Muslims. That all Muslims are not terrorists, And they'll begin to see the life of the Muslims. And even if you don't say anything about Islam, just your presence within them and among them, you're ambassadors of Islam. So in one way or another, you'll be watching your Islam, and because people are watching. And the reason I'm pointing that out is to say that each one of us has to check our intention at that point. That why are we doing the things that we are doing? In other words, the point being that if you're sincere for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're not going to mind if somebody else comes and does what you're doing. In other words, what I'm trying to say is that, let's say that you're telling somebody about Islam, and you're, alhamdulillah, you're doing a good job and so on. You meet somebody in the mall and they're asking you about Islam and so on, and your friend starts telling the person about Islam also. But then you notice that your friend can speak a lot better than you can, and is a lot better in conversing with a person, knows about the background of the people that in the local area and so on. Now, if an attitude of jealousy develops in you towards your friend, and you begin to look at him as, where did you come from? Hey, wait a minute, I'm the real deal here. I was the one who was talking to this person. You can go and pick some other Muslim, or some other non-Muslim. You can talk to them. The whole mall is open for you. You don't have to talk to this particular one that I'm talking to right now at this moment. No, if you have that attitude, that means that you're not being sincere. Because look, if you're sincere, you're going to say to yourself, well, alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent somebody else who can do a better job than I can. I'm going to sit here and listen. That's sincerity. But if you're not sincere, what's going to happen is that you're going to get jealous, you're going to begin to feel a sense of envy towards the person. As a matter of fact, you might, their friendship might be in jeopardy as far as you're concerned. Because they did something to embarrass you perhaps. That's the way you're feeling. Okay? But if you had sincerity, you don't mind. You don't mind at all because after all, you're doing the work of Allah. And whoever does it, that's not important. As a Muslim, you're ready, whether you're going to be a leader or whether you're going to be a janitor, it doesn't matter. Because all of it is the work of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So therefore, when we come to sincerity, the main issue, as one of our scholars put it, he said that Man wajad Allah famada faqad, wa man faqad Allah famada wajad. Whoever has found Allah, what have they lost? And whoever has lost Allah, what have they found? You see, this is a statement of sincerity. Whoever has found Allah in their lives, what have they lost that's so valuable? What have they lost? What's the big deal here? What's the big problem? In other words, if they found Allah in their lives, what have they lost? Have they lost money? Have they lost friendships? You know, what's so valuable that they've lost, that they cannot get from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What have they lost all their money because they found Allah in their lives? Have they lost all sense of peace in their lives? You know, what have they lost when it comes to, have they lost their career just because they found Allah in their lives? What have they lost? You know, have they become crazy after they found Allah in their lives? You know, what is it? So what have they lost? What is worth so much that after they found Allah that they lost? In other words, nothing. Basically said rhetorically that there's nothing. If you find Allah in your life, then you haven't made. You know, you're the biggest winner. I mean, they talk about the Fortune 500. I mean, there's something more valuable than the Fortune 500. I mean, you are really prosperous. You're really successful. Okay? And whoever loses Allah from their lives, what have they found? Huh? Whoever loses Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from their lives, they don't have Allah in their lives, what have they found that's more valuable than Allah, that's more precious than Allah, that's more dear than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? If they don't have Allah, if they've lost Allah from their lives, is it true that perhaps they have more peace in their lives? Huh? Since they've lost Allah from their lives, are there less wars in the world? Since they lost Allah from their lives and now they don't have to deal with the issue of interest being prohibited, so now interest is okay, is there less economic turmoil in the world? I mean, what have they found that's so valuable that they can afford to lose Allah from their life? In other words, the point being that you lose Allah from your life and there's nothing as valuable as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is why we find that when it comes to ikhlas, the meaning of ikhlas, it comes from the word khalusa in Arabic, which means basically that for something to be purified, for something to be cleansed. And when we say, for example, something is khalis, this means that something is purified, something is cleansed, and there was something that was dirty or something that was soiled, and this has been cleansed now. Okay, this is khalis. So when we talk about ikhlas, we're talking about the fact that basically whatever is in your heart that contends with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is something that is soiling your heart, and this is something that has to be removed from your heart. And your intention is to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. And so therefore, whatever is there that is interfering with that should be removed from your heart. Any impurities of that nature, things that are crowding out the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, should be removed. This is sincerity. This is sincerely devoting yourself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One of our scholars, he one time he said that sincerity is when you do away with the watch of the people. when you do away with the watch of the people. He says, al-ikhlas, al-khalas min ru'yat al-ashkhas. He says that, when you don't pay attention to the people watching, basically, this is sincerity. When you do away with that. Meaning that if you do something, whatever you do, as long as you're not showing off to other people, you're not doing that particular deed to show off to other people, this is real sincerity. In other words, if you're by yourself and you're in the masjid and you're making the salah, and all of a sudden some people show up behind you and they begin making comments on their salah, and you know that you were intending only to pray Qul Huwallahu Ahad in your salah, but the minute you notice that there are people in the back, you start reading Surah Al-Baqarah and Surah Al-Imran and so on, and because you want to show off to the people that mashallah, brother knows a lot of Quran. So that's not really for Allah, that's for your own personal self, so you'll feel good because you're waiting for that praise afterwards. So sincerity is to do away with the watch of the people, not to pay attention. As long as you're doing something right, just keep on doing what is right. One of our scholars, as a matter of fact, he said that sincerity is when you have no witness to your actions except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In other words, you only want Allah to witness your actions. As far as other people, that's not so critical. Because in the end, you will be going back to Allah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to take you to task for what you did or did not do. He's going to reward you or punish you according to what you did or what you did not do. So, as a matter of fact, one of our scholars, he went on and he said that sincerity is when you look at when you look at yourself and you do not think that you're sincere. Okay? Sincerity is when you look at yourself and don't think that you're sincere. Because if you look at yourself, he says, if you look at yourself and you think you're sincere, then your sincerity needs some sincerity. Then your sincerity needs some sincerity. Because if you think that you're sincere, it means that you think too much of yourself. And that means that you need to purify yourself. Because there is no egotism, there is no, being amazed at yourself to that degree. Whatever, if you do any good, it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you're grateful to Allah that Allah allowed you to do what He allowed you to do. Okay? So this is some of the things that our scholars have said. There's one time one of our scholars, he said that sincerity is when you pay attention to the watch of Allah rather than the watch of the people. And you're so busy with the watch of the people that you neglect the watch of human beings. To the degree that like one of our scholars, he said that whoever dresses up for Allah, and dresses up in the sense that put on stuff that is not really theirs, and it's not really in their character, then they have a fallout in the eyes of Allah. Meaning that if you pretend to be something that you're not, then that is not respected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the least. Okay. Now, the last thing that we want to say for today is that when it comes to sincerity, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala emphasizes this all over the Quran. To such a degree that this is mentioned so frequently that the implication there is that this is something we have to constantly check. Frequently check our level of sincerity. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Zumar, He says, إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكَ الْكِتَابَ بِالْحَقِّ فَاعْبُدِ اللَّهَ مُخْلِصًا لَهُ الدِّينَ أَلَا لِلَّهِ الدِّينُ الْخَالِصِ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that, look, we have brought down this book to you, meaning the Quran, and we have revealed this to you, إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكَ الْكِتَابَ, with the truth. So, you should be grateful for this. You should be very, very grateful for this. And therefore, you should فَعْبُدِ اللَّهِ, so worship Allah, serve Allah, مُخْلِصًا لَهُ الدِّينِ, with total sincerity and with no one else, paying attention to no one else besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And like this, for example, in another surah in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that openly declare, قُلْ إِنَّ صَلَاتِي وَنُسُكِي وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتِي لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. That tell people, declare openly, that look, my prayers, my sacrifice, my life, and my death are all for Allah. La sharika lah. There's no partner in this with Him. وَبِذَلِكَ أُمِرْ. And this is what I've been enjoined to do. This is what I've been ordered to do. وَبِذَلِكَ أُمِرْ. وَأَنَا أَوَّلُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. And I am in the lead of those who have submitted. Okay. So again, the point simply being here, that if you want to be sincere towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have to think that everything in your life has to be dedicated to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So as we said earlier, if you're an engineer, or if you're a doctor, or if you are a businessman, or if you are a journalist, if you're a lawyer, whatever, or a teacher, or a computer analyst, or you're in finance, for example, whatever it is, then the issue is that whatever action you take, you have to ask yourself, is this pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or not? If it is not, then you have to sincerely come back to Allah and rededicate whatever you're doing to the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, now, for this reason, we find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praises those people who are sincere in the Quran. Those people who are very, very sincere, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praises them in the Quran. And for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the people, those people who help other people. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that they, when they help other people, they وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامِ عَلَى حُبِّهِ مِسْكِينًا وَيَتِيمًا وَأَسِيرًا, that they feed people because of the love of Allah, those who are in need, those who are orphans, and those who are prisoners. They feed those people. And what do they say? إِنَّمَا نُطْعِمُكُمْ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ لَا نُرِيدُ مِنْكُمْ جَزَاءً وَلَا شُكُورًا. That we are only feeding you for the pleasure of Allah, for the sake of Allah. And we are not looking for any gratitude or any reward from you in any way. We're not looking for any compensation. We're just doing this for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now you see, brothers and sisters, when you do this for the sake of Allah, you know that you're not going to get paid. You know, if you're doing this totally for the sake of Allah, you're not looking for popularity, you're not looking for any notoriety, you're not looking for anything on your resume, you're not looking for any of those things. And so you have to do it only for the pleasure of Allah. That you do it, whether people notice or they don't notice, it's not a big deal. Allah knows that you notice, and that's big enough, and that's good enough as far as you care. So therefore, this indicates the sincerity of the person who does this. And this is why you find that in our past, among our pious predecessors, somebody like Umar, for example, or Abu Bakr, and the other companions of Prophet ﷺ, they would be out at night, going through the streets of Medina, looking to see if anybody needed any help. And they would go and they would help without telling anybody at all. Eventually, the people themselves will speak, and this is how we know about them today, what Abu Bakr and Umar would do, and other Sahaba. So they would be walking, like for example, Umar, there was a lady that Umar, she used to live on the outskirts of the city, and he would go every night after Salat al-Isha. He would go and he would clean her house. And he would, remember he's a Khalifa, he's a leader of the Muslims. Okay? He does not have a huge security detail or a huge entourage with him and all that stuff. Okay? He's not going in a bulletproof limousine or anything like that. He's walking on foot. He goes in the middle of the night and he cleans the house of this lady. He cooks for her. He milks the sheep that she has. And after that, he leaves. Now, he's not looking for any kudos. He's not looking for any praise from anybody. He's only looking to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the middle of the night, he could be sleeping. He could be with his family. but he's doing it only for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِنَّمَا نُطْعِمُكُمْ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ لَا نُرِيدُ مِنْكُمْ جَزَاءً وَلَا شُكُورًا. We're just doing this for the pleasure of Allah. We're not looking for any rewards or any thanks from you. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, every Friday, after a certain time, he would lead the salah, and then right after he would finish leading Salat al-Fajr, he would go out, he would rush out of the masjid. And so Umar saw this going on for like 3 or 4 days, 3 or 4 weeks, that after every Jummah, every Friday morning, right after leading Salat al-Fajr, Abu Bakr would rush out. So Umar decided, well, this time I'm going to follow him. I'm going to try to find out what is Abu Bakr doing. What is he doing? Why is he rushing out of the masjid right after Fajr on Friday? Friday is supposed to be a day that you're supposed to take it easy. Take it easy on that day, because among the Muslims it's supposed to be the holiday, so you're supposed to take it easy. But Abu Bakr is rushing out after Fajr. So Umar follows him, and he hides in some bushes. He notices that Abu Bakr knocks on the door of a house, and Umar is hiding in a bush behind him. And remember, it had to be a big bush because Umar is huge. Umar, some of the historians today, they say his build was so huge that he would be like 6'8" today in today's measurements, like today's standards. So he's huge. So you can imagine Umar is hiding in a bush. So anyway, Abu Bakr knocks on the door, and there's an old lady who comes out, and he goes into the house. And Umar hears from outside that there are children playing inside and so on. And after a little while, Abu Bakr comes out. So Umar now, he sees Abu Bakr leaving. He goes and he knocks on the same door. And he wants to find out what's going on. So he knocks on the door. An old lady answers, and she's blind. The lady is blind. So he asks the lady that, I saw this man entering your house. You let him in. What is he doing? So she said, well, this man is so nice that every Friday morning he comes and he cleans my house. He milks the sheep. He goes ahead and cleans all of my clothes. And he cooks for me. And then he leaves. Umar asked the lady, do you know who this man was? Because Umar knew who it was. She says, he asked her, do you know who this man is? She says, no, I don't know who this man is. He never tells me who he is. He just says that I'm a Muslim in the community. You see, of course, you know what happened to Umar? Umar could not control himself. Umar went back into the bush, and there he just broke down crying. He could not believe that this was the Amir al-Mu'mineen, the leader of the believers. And he was doing what he was doing, and he was doing it anonymously. This is sincerity. This is an example of sincerity in the sense of doing something solely for the pleasure of Allah and not having anybody notice. And this is how they used to do, and this is how people, even today, you find among the believers people like that. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is praising. In addition to this, there is another verse in the Quran wherein Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Kahf, this is a surah that we're supposed to read every Friday. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاصْبِرْ نَفْسَكَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ رَبَّهُمْ بِالْغَدَاةِ وَالْعَشِيِّ يُرِيدُونَ وَجْهَهُ وَلَا تَعْدُ عَيْنَاكَ عَنْهُمْ تُرِيدُ زِينَةَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. Be content, be patient with those people who call upon their Lord morning and evening. For the sake of Allah, they call upon their Lord. وَلَا تَعْدُ عَيْنَاكَ عَنْهُمْ, and don't look beyond them. تَعْدُ عَيْنَاكَ عَنْهُمْ تُرِيدُ زِينَةَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا, wanting the glitter and the glamour of this world. Do not look beyond that. The point being that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is praising these people. Why? Because look, a lot of times when you're with the Muslims, They may not have the best facilities. They may not be the richest of people. They may not have the glitter and the glamour and all the entertainment like the others may have. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, be patient with them. Be contented with them. This is your family, this is your nation, this is your ummah, this is your community. Be with them. Don't look beyond them. But you cannot do that unless you are sincerely doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because you could easily say, look, that person is not my status. This person is not, they're not from my community. They don't speak the same language. They're not from the same background. They're not the same educational status. Look, I'm a doctor, or I'm a PhD, or I'm a president of a company. In order for me to be comfortable, they have to be all executives, and the people that I deal with, and so on. But if you had sincerity, you can deal with anyone, because the most valuable thing in this world is not what degree you hold, what worldly degree you hold, but it's your degree of sincerity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is how we as Muslims measure the importance of a person and the value of a person and the preciousness of a person. So again, this is something that is being emphasized by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because of the sincerity that is involved here. The last thing that I want to mention for today, there's a verse in the Quran wherein Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again is praising those people who simply just talk about certain issues. They don't even have to do it, but they just have to sincerely talk about it. That's it. And again, I'm not encouraging people just to talk, because we should definitely act. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لا خير في كثير من نجواهم إلا من أمر بصدقة أو معروف أو إصلاح بين الناس ومن يفعل ذلك ابتغاء مرضات الله فسوف نؤتيه أجرا عظيما. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, there is no good in all the gatherings and meetings that people have, except in a gathering where people enjoin each other, not do it, but enjoin, counsel each other, and exhort each other to give in the way of Allah, and they enjoin each other to do something good, and they enjoin each other to make peace between people. As long as somebody does that, meaning they're just enjoining, they're just telling people, just teaching people, that's it, and they do it for the pleasure of Allah, then we'll give them a great reward. Now that's just for talking about it. Imagine if you were to actually do it. Imagine if you were to actually do those things. Like you're encouraging somebody to establish an Islamic school. If your intention is sincere, Allah will give you a great reward. Just for talking about it. That look, we need to establish an Islamic school. We need to establish a masjid. We need to do this, we need to do that. Just for encouraging people, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you. Why? Because the sincerity is there. Because the sincerity is there. And this is why sincerity is so valuable. And inshallah in the coming weeks, next week inshallah we'll talk a little bit more about the merits of sincerity, that why this is so important, the issue of sincerity. We've talked about intention, now we just need to talk a little bit about sincerity, and then inshallah we'll get into some of the signs of a person who is sincere. How can you tell if a person is sincere? How can you look at your own life and determine whether I'm sincere enough or not? Okay? Alright, we'll finish with that for this afternoon then. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.